So Mr. Goenka is, of course, chairman at the RPSG Sanjiv Group, and he's no stranger to the conclave, but there are so many exciting new developments to discuss with him as he continues to be at the forefront of driving new businesses, change, pursuing his passion, and really giving an insight into how the Indian economy is shaping up and heading towards that multi-trillion mark. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So Mr. Goenka, let me start off. You're one of the oldest standing business houses with legacy businesses that have been around for centuries. You know, it's a business house that has been there for 200 years with legacy businesses including CESC, Spencer's, Carbon Black. And now you're making this huge shift to the new era businesses, from IT to media, FMCG. What's driving this change from what you yourself have earlier referred to as government interventionist industries to non-government intervention-led industry?
Well, frankly, legacy gives you a sense of values. It gives you a certain kind of convention. But all these values and conventions have to be used to move forward and not to bind you down. So we took a conscious decision a few years ago to move from government intervention-intensive businesses to new age businesses. And we started this journey with getting into BPO and IT-enabled services, then into FMCG, Ayurveda, and sports. So it's a totally different genre compared to what we did in the past. And we are now looking at chemicals in a very big way. So it's completely reprofiling the portfolio that we've had.
Absolutely. And whether it be in the new age businesses or even in the kind of experience you've had, let's take a look at a shorter time span of the last 10 years. How would you say the economic landscape has changed? Where you're seeing a more conducive scenario for entrepreneurs, or is it a more challenging scenario for entrepreneurs?
You know, I must say this, and I say this in all sincerity. The government led by Narendra Modi has made it possible for entrepreneurs, for industry, to think big, to work without any challenges. The ease of doing business is fantastic. The sheer vision, the scale of the repositioning, of reimagining that the Prime Minister and the Home Minister bring to the table is unparalleled. And I think it gives us that inspiration, it gives each one of us in industry that inspiration to not only move ahead, but to reset our scale and to look at the world as a market and to try and see how one can get into global leadership, if not at least globally competitive positions.
Global is the word, and we'll of course get to hear from both those big voices setting the agenda for the Indian economy here at the conclave itself. But talking about scale, and I want to get further into FMCG on account of that, in your vision of scale, because when you first chose to enter this particular industry, there were a lot of questions from market analysts wondering why an industry like FMCG, which is already crowded, where the margins are thin, why would an industry house like yours choose to enter this segment?
It was something that was actually recommended by McKinsey. Okay. And so it was not based on whims and fancies. European guilt-free snacking didn't exist in India. And so to that extent, it was a pioneering effort. But I must confess that it's been a difficult journey. And it's not exactly the easiest journey. We've now, from guilt-free snacking, we've got into Indian ethnic snacks, to personal care, and you will see a few more products. And it's an extension of this which takes us to Ayurveda. And we are now looking at Ayurveda in a new age version, in a modern version, in an easy to consume version, in a form, in a format that the world understands and relates to.
Mr. Goenka, I don't think anything you do is at a whim. You've always been an entrepreneur that's talked about the sustainability of business, looked at cash flow, valuation, not been one for debt, and that's always held you in good stead. Tell us, what would be your advice to entrepreneurs of today who are chasing these high valuations, who are in a completely different game as they explore opportunities?
Well, they are so much more successful. So I think I should be taking advice from them, not the other way around.
Okay, that was a good dodge. It will circle back to that. But, okay, an entrepreneur out there that you perhaps admire, old economy, new economy, someone whose acumen or achievement you have found has been, something that you look up to and you would also like to follow. Any entrepreneur that comes to mind?
Mukesh Ambani.
All right, Mukesh Ambani. And why? Yeah, I know, but I want to hear it from you.
So many reasons. But his skill in execution, his vision of scale, his vision of perfection, his compassion, his ability to reach out to people. I can go on and on. And I don't think too many people from India can even dare to think like him. But even if we get to a fraction, we would have done very well.
The one area there you did take a risk, and I know sports is a passion, but when you bought the IPL team just a couple of years ago, the Lucknow one, there was a lot of furor around the valuation, what you paid for it, and I think in the last series they came third. So I'm wondering, a year or so later, where we're at in terms of how you're assessing that investment.
I didn't think it was a risk. I was fairly convinced, and I remember Rahul grilling me for 20 minutes on a show on the valuations and why I bid what I did. I think subsequent events have just validated to the rest of the world my numbers.
All right, so where do you see the IPL team being in terms of ROI, let's say, in 2 years' time? What are your ambitions for the team?
As a team owner and I think there are two roles. One is that of the investment. And I think we already stand at a significant premium to the amount I had bid for. And just a few days ago, there was this fairly large American fund who expressed a fairly strong degree of interest at attractive valuations. Not that we are sellers, not that we will sell, not that we can sell. But having said so, it just sort of validates that it's worth much more than what we bid. One. Two, in any sport, you want to win. And so I've heard lots of people say getting off to the playoffs in the first year was a great achievement. I don't think so. I think in any year, you can't win every year. But the aim has to be to get and aim for the cup each year. And I think the tournament begins 2 weeks from now, and it's going to be our focus to look at the cup.
Okay. All the best with that. Talking about risks, though, any risk that comes to your mind that you've taken that's either worked or hasn't worked, but one that you could share a learning from for the audience here?
So several years ago, and it was when I was beginning my career, almost beginning my career, I was a young kid, and I bought into this power company in Calcutta. 12 to 14 hours of power cuts. I really had no clue what I was getting into. It was needing an investment of about 10, 11 crores. I knew my father would say no, so I went to my mother. And mothers being mothers and sympathetic and thinking more from the heart than the mind, she convinced my father. And when I went in, my first day in that office, in that building, when I was entering, there were a few thousand workers outside, and they had a funeral pyre. And they had my effigy, and they said that they lit that funeral pyre. And they said, Sanjiv Goenka Murdabad. It was then that the reality sank in. It was a huge risk, 12 to 14 hours of power cuts every day. And if you couldn't lick that, you'd been booted out of the city. that's a risk which worked out and which has paid off handsomely. There are several others which haven't, but I'd rather not think about them.
Always look on the bright side. Okay, let's talk about football. That's been a passion for you. How did you get into football? Because versus cricket, there's actually a deeper connection there. And this is something that you've been pursuing for even longer.
So I knew nothing about football in this league. And one of my friends who's sitting right here came to me and said, you know, there is this proposal and would we like to partner? And I frankly thought that because it's this gentleman and I hold him in very high esteem, I said yes. But then it became a passion. And I think over the last few years, we've been in the league, in the ISL for 10 years. Out of 10 years, we've got to the playoffs 8 times. Tomorrow is our 5th final. We have won 3 titles. Hopefully tomorrow will be the 4th.
Another passion for you, of course, is music. Saregama is a legacy business, of course. Part of that also was Carva, where, when we saw surprising success with some of those, legendary songs, you also knew the singers very well, Rafi, Kishore, Lata. Which are some of your favorite melodies? I'm not sure if you're going to be singing for us, but which would be your favorite melodies?
I'm not as melodious as Anil Agarwal, so I'm not even going to try. But yes, Lataji was a great friend of my mother's. And we grew up seeing in her an aunt. And she would stay at our home in Calcutta. And so we've heard her doing riyaz, we've heard her just sitting and humming. My daughter, who now runs Saregama, is sitting here. And she was 4 years or 5 years. And Lataji took her through this journey of Jack and Jill went up the hill, and for 1 hour she was doing nursery rhymes with her. I actually wish we had those recordings. But for me, some of my favorite songs and some things that I listen to virtually every week, if not more frequently, are the songs of Aradhana. From Kora Kagas Tha Ye Man Mera and Mere Sapno Ki Rani Kab Aayegi Tu. And I keep listening to them, and I just keep... It's so relaxing, it's so de-stressing. And Kishore, Lata, I think the duets are absolutely fantastic.
Nostalgia. And your other passion, of course, is cooking. And this one was new to me. I didn't know too much about this. But what do you treat your family to at home, and how often?
My cooking thing stopped when my daughter got married. I used to cook to spend those few hours on a Sunday morning with her. So my father, my mother, my wife, my daughter, my son, I. It was just family bonding time. And they were the only people who wouldn't judge me. What I cooked was trash. And they still, out of affection, ate it. So for me, those were very special moments. Those were moments that I treasure. And once she got married and moved to Delhi, I stopped cooking.
All right. I think that's an invite to come back home more regularly. So, as an entrepreneur who's, really built, a business house over the last many years, a sustainable legacy, how would you today view value creation? What would be the kind of advice that you could give to young entrepreneurs? Because today, one huge change is that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. They want to create something, and they feel that they can. What would be your advice to them on how to pursue their ideas, build businesses, and build sustainable businesses?
Some of the highest value creators have actually hit upon very simple ideas. It's fundamentally, if you see, it's all easier to consume. It's all in the space of easy to use, call it whatever you might. So whether it's, yes, you can say it's sustainable, it's energy efficient, it's environment friendly, but it's all things which are easy to consume. So if you look at the mobile phones, they become so much easier to consume, and one instrument gives you almost everything. So it's about actually ease of living or ease of consuming. And I think that is where the highest value creation happens. So that is why when I talk of Ayurveda, we are looking at how do we make Ayurveda and deliver Ayurveda in a form that's easy to consume.
Do you feel that there is a global opportunity here? And what are the steps it's going to take to get there? We all talk about it a lot, and we hear that even, from the Prime Minister himself. His vision is to have a far more reaching impact for India and the global economy. But what are the steps to actually making that happen?
Several. I think to begin with, we don't have enough data of proven successes, and that's vital. Second, the form of consumption of Ayurveda is almost innovative. So you take a powder, you add honey to it, then you stir it, then you don't take something for another 30 minutes after that, etc., etc., etc. It's cumbersome. So how do you make it easy to consume? How do you get the world to relate to those products? So for example, we've launched Chyawanprash in the form of gummies. The world is familiar with it. We've launched Chyawanprash in the form of toffees. We've gone in for a diabetic range of Ayurveda products. And there are lots of research going on different products. So the technology is there, the formulation is there. How do you deliver it in a manner that is easy to consume? And that gives you the confidence that consuming this is going to either increase your wellness or cure you of certain ailments or whatever. And I think it is the credibility, the track record, and the ease of consumption. These are the three key factors.
We have seen quite a remarkable pace of growth, for the new lines of businesses in the last 2-3 years. What is the kind of top line, even if not numbers, the kind of hyper growth that you're anticipating with this venture?
I wouldn't really like to publicly give a number, but we have our own internal targets. And it's a struggle with our team because they think they're far too ambitious. But I don't believe they are. So.
All right. But you're looking at, if in this, okay, no numbers, not even a ballpark, like 10, if not a percentage, 10x, 20x, or,
the base is low.
Yeah.
So a 10x, 20x is not good enough.
It'll have to be
Much, much more.
much higher. Okay, so no numbers on that. Okay, in terms of the kind of challenges, though, to building some of these new businesses, share that with us because there will be some insights and learning there as well for others who are in the same field.
To begin with, they guzzle capital.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think it's about communicating to the people about the advantages of these products, which are legacy products, which are old products, which have been proven for centuries, but data has not been captured to show their efficacy. And people have always viewed it as a means of last resort. When nothing else works, you go to this. So change the mindset from the last resort to something that I would actively consider. And I think that is a transition that we have to make. Once we do that, the rest will follow easily.
Okay, are you an active user and follower of these practices?
I have now begun to do it.
Okay.
I wasn't earlier.
And are we seeing results? Are you feeling the results?
I'm very happy with what I'm consuming.
Okay. In terms of in terms of the kind of awareness building campaigns, you've got Virat Kohli on board as well. A lot of attention being given to drive home this messaging. Anything else exciting coming up because you're talking about all these new launches? Anything that you can share with us?
New launches, new products, I think is becoming a way of life for us. So in terms of personal care, there are lots of new products which are getting launched, all of which are completely natural and paraben-free and blah, blah, blah. In terms of ethnic snacks, we've launched a range which is 40% lower on fats and calories as compared to anything else that exists. In terms of Ayurveda, I've already spoken a lot. In terms of music, you will see a lot of innovation going on. I don't think we are ready to announce them yet, another 2-3 months. Karma was the first major innovation that we did, and it's been a resounding success. But yes, there is more on the way for sure.
You have so many multiple businesses, multiple hats. Is it difficult to choose a favorite sometimes? If I had to ask you to choose a favorite or one that you spend most time on?
If you have more than one child, can you choose a favorite?
All right. But where do you enjoy spending most of your time right now?
It depends upon the situation, and there is no fixed area where I'm spending most of my time. Sometimes it's, in fact, most often it's situation-led or demand-led. So sometimes it's where you have the biggest problems. Sometimes it's where you believe that you need a lot of intervention to drive pace of growth. Sometimes it's just situation-led. So for example, when the IPL season gets underway, then every day we have a game. I would willingly spend half an hour with my management team and the team. So it varies, it changes.
And do you have a favorite player?
My favorite player is not in my team.
Who is the favorite player? I'm sure the cricket buffs already know this, but it's
No,
new to me.
I'm not answering that.
All right, so IPL, football, all of this, of course, is going to be a super exciting season over the next few weeks and how that rolls out. We're also looking forward to hearing the Prime Minister as well as the Home Minister here at the Conclave. And I must ask you, just in terms of where you see India on the global map over the next few years, its dominance, its influence, and as a robust economy, particularly at a time when we're seeing so much uncertainty around the globe.
It fills my heart with pride to see when the world around us is crumbling, India is actually standing up and doing well. Few years ago, when you went outside, nobody gave an Indian too much respect. Today, when you go and you say, I'm from India, you are given respect. So I think Modi ji has taught the world to respect India. So I think that's a huge achievement, which maybe 65 years or 68 years of independence prior to Modi ji did not succeed in doing. Second is, India is becoming a true world manufacturing hub. 3, India is becoming the world's talent hub. 4, I think they are very clearly working towards building infrastructure, which makes India a wonderful place to live in, work in. They are easing rules, simplifying them, and making the ease of doing business even greater. So all in all, I think what this government has done and what they've provided us is a phenomenal opportunity. It's for each one of us to not only commend them, but to take advantage, to go ahead and implement this vision, to actually make sure that corporate India comes forward, puts its best foot forward, invests, and delivers.
Absolutely. Invest, whether it be CapEx, whether it be, in new businesses, entrepreneurs, and coming back to that, if you are looking at a next generation of entrepreneurs, Mr. Goenka, would it be an individual, a profile, an industry? Would you stay away from tech? How would you look at investing in the next generation?
So we've started a venture capital fund. It's a small one at this point in time. And we started with investments in FMCG companies, and not startups, but second phase startups. We made some 9 or 10 investments. And from the time we invested first to now, all the companies that we've invested in are trading at about 4 to 5x the values that we sort of invested in. It's a very strong professional team which is handling this. we are now going to get, so far we've not looked at funds from outside, but we will now go out and accept funds from others, because we are confident that we've cracked the ability to make this succeed. We will also be launching a green energy venture capital fund. So that is going to be our next venture. We haven't spoken about it, so this is actually the first time we're talking about it. And we will be launching this in the next couple of months, actually.
That's very exciting. Are you going to give me the size of the fund? Some numbers.
I think I've given you, this is the first time I'm making this announcement, so that's with you. But this is something that my son is handling, so he will announce the greater details. But I think we're still about 2 months away.
Okay, super exciting green energy venture capital fund being announced by the RPSG Goenka Group, and waiting for further announcements for that. You heard it first right here at the India Today Conclave. And with that, a big round of applause for Mr. Goenka. Thank you so much for sharing details across your businesses, sports, and varied other developments. It was fantastic speaking to you.
It's been a privilege, and huge thanks to Arun and Kali and Rekha. It's an honor being here always. Thank you.